Welcome to the new Margaritaville at Sea Islander. I just completed its inaugural sailing from Port Tampa. I was on this sailing so I could bring you a full review. There were lots of very high points and also several lows. I'll break it all down for you today on Seymour Seas. With the Islander, Margaritaville at Sea will now have two ships sailing out of Florida. Now, this is a refurbished Costa ship that is part of the Spirit class from Carnival Cruise Lines. It was built in 2000 and Margaritaville organization bought it in 2023 and committed to refurbishing it and rebranding it under the Margaritaville brand. She holds over just 2,100 passengers with 897 crew members. I went on this inaugural sailing so I can give it a full review using Doug's ship score. I'll also have a full tour coming out very soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Hi everyone and welcome. If you are new here, I am Doug and this is Seymour Seas, your cruise tips and planning channel where I hope to help you and your family pick, plan, and enjoy your next cruise vacation. When you're ready to book your next cruise, make sure that you email me here at the email address shown on the screen, or you can find my contact information in the video description. Thanks so much for stopping in today, and with that, let's get started. I was very excited to go on this inaugural cruise because I believe this is a huge leap forward to the Margaritaville at Sea organization. They currently just had one ship sailing from the Port of Palm Beach, and it was only a 2-night sailing over to Freeport and back. I have done a review of that initial ship, the Paradise, and you can see that review on my channel. I'll leave the link at the end of this video and in the video description. The launch of the Islander is going to be a game changer for Margaritaville at Sea, and I think it's a very competitive product out of Port of Tampa with their 4- and 5-night Western Caribbean itineraries. I will be using Doug's ship score to review this ship, and if you're not familiar with that, it is simply a 5-star rating in 5 different categories. It spells out the word ships. The first category is S for ship, and this is the ship design, the ease, the condition of the ship. H is for hotel. This is the cabin and the entertainment on board. I is for itinerary. This is the ports of call. Are they safe? Is it a tender port? And then you have P for plates, which is the food on board, the quality, the selection, the availability. And then you have S for service, which is all of the crew that is customer facing and is there to make you have an enjoyable experience. Let's get started then with S for ship. This ship is part of Carnival Corporation's Spirit class. It was previously owned by Costa Cruise Lines. Margaritaville at Sea has done an outstanding job with refurbishing this ship that is 24 years old. Everything in the public spaces seemed to be brand new, from the carpeting to the furniture to the fixtures. It looks absolutely fantastic, even down to the parrots on the bedspreads in the staterooms. There are a few places on board where you can see that this ship is 24 years old. Some of the wooden doors and sliding doors between some of the outside public venues, you can tell that they've seen their better day, as well as the public bathrooms on board seem to be extremely outdated and they needed servicing very, very often. I want to reiterate that this was an inaugural cruise and they just had a short preview cruise prior to this. So a lot of these systems were not stress tested until this particular sailing, and inaugural cruises are notorious for having small issues that pop up now and then. As I mentioned earlier, all of the public spaces were in great condition and were very, very nice and comfortable. The main theater is on deck 2, 3, and 4 forward. It is very comfortable, very nice, and they also had some very good staging on the first production show that they put on. There are some columns in here that do block some of the viewing, so make sure that you're choosing your seats carefully. The pool decks are all on deck 9, and there are 3 different pools. The first is the Land Shark pool, which is the main pool with a DJ. It has an oversized poolside television, and it has the 3-story Land Shark bar located there. Next to that, through a doorway, is the 5 o'clock somewhere pool. This is where there is all the outside eating venues beside the pool. They also have live music with a stage, and this also has a retractable roof that they did implement due to some bad weather that we had in the Gulf. There is a large pool bar there that shares the same location as the Land Shark bar. The Tiki pool is also on deck 9 aft, and this is adults only area with a very large bar. It has a adults only pool with a hot tub, and here there are also additional fee food venues for seafood as well as chicken wings and grilled filet skewers. There are several bars and lounges on board. The Coral Reef Lounge is right beside the theater on deck 1 forward. The Farside Lounge is also a large venue on deck 2 forward where a lot of activities are held. This is also where the For a Fee sushi restaurant is located. The Flip Flop Atrium Bar covers decks 2 and 3 midship, and this was the central hub where everybody met. This is where the captain did the welcome toast, and this was a very lively area with great entertainment constantly in this atrium bar. The Hemisphere's Dancer Craft Cocktail Bar is on deck 2 aft, and this is an area where they have some really inventive cocktails. This is where you get the best martinis. There's also entertainment there nightly. The Havana Daydreaming Bar is the sports bar on deck 3 forward, and this is a really cool space where they have several large flat screen televisions showing various sporting events throughout the day and the evening. There is also a small stage there for both podcasts as well as entertainment and live music. Bubbles Up Champagne Bar is deck 3 aft, and this is where you can go to get martinis, specialty wines, specialty cocktails, and as a tip, it's right outside the main dining room, so this is a great place to have a cocktail before or after dinner. Don't forget about the Hot nightclub. This is on deck 2 aft. This opens up late night and is a 2-story disco-ish looking venue where you party the night away into the early morning. Overall, I thought they did a fantastic job with the refurbishment of this ship, adding all of the great Margaritaville branding. All of the public spaces were in excellent condition. I found it very easy to get around the ship on decks 2, 3, and 9. So for ship score, I'm going to give the Margaritaville at Sea Islander 4 stars. Let's now move on to H for hotel. This is the stateroom and the entertainment on board. Let's first start with the stateroom. I had a partially obstructed balcony that was very, very nice. All of the furnishings seemed to be brand new. The linens and the bedding was absolutely great. And the bathroom was large with a stand-up shower. The water pressure was very, very good. I did have a little bit of a temperamental toilet that would not flush sometimes, but this did not last, and I had absolutely no problems with it throughout the cruise. Now, the room was spacious. It had lots of different closet areas and drawers, so I thought I had plenty of room. The balcony, though it was partially obstructed, was very, very nice. It wasn't as deep as I've seen on other ships, but it was absolutely fine. There were multiple charging opportunities on the desk, but I did bring my USB hub with me. The flat screen television seemed to be brand new. In fact, I had to set the time and date on the television before I could get the guide to work. The lamps beside each side of the bed did have USB charging ports there, so if you are charging your phone while you're sleeping, you can do that bedside. A final thing to note about the stateroom is that your stateroom attendant will service your cabin once a day. There was not turn-down service in the evenings on this sailing. For the entertainment on board, this had some very, very high points as well as a couple low points. So this was very mixed. But overall, the entertainment on board was really good with a lot of live music options available in lots of the public spaces, including the main flip-flop atrium bar as well as other venues. So I thought they did a great job of mixing this up throughout the entire cruise. The entertainment in the main theater, the country music show, and with the dancers, the singers, as well as acrobats, I thought was fantastic. This show blew me away. It really exceeded my expectations, and it was very, very entertaining. We did have some rough weather on the next night, so the Illusionist show in the main theater was canceled for that evening. However, they did have a comedian on board that did a late night adults only. I did not care for this comedian. It was a little bit more of childish humor than it was adult humor, talking about bodily functions, and I just didn't find it appealing. The last production show was a Caribbean Heat remix show. The staging was pretty non-existent here. There was a lot of rap music that you couldn't understand what the singers were saying, and it didn't look like it had or feel like it had any continuity to it. There was a couple acrobatic things thrown in for what didn't make much sense, so I didn't care for this show at all. It was actually one of the weakest shows I've seen at sea. Ending on a high note for entertainment, the deck entertainment on the main pool area I thought was excellent. They had lots of different activities throughout the day. There was a lot of entertainment on the large TV screen, and I think they did a great job keeping everybody entertained throughout the day on the sea day on the main pool decks. I should also note that there were several opportunities for various activities inside the ship in the Farside Lounge area, which is a large venue. They had trivia there, they had exercise classes, they had a lot of different events, so there was plenty of things going on inside the ship as well. So my score for H for hotel is going to be 3.5 stars. I thought the cabin was great. There was really nothing wrong with it. The entertainment on board was mostly very good. However, there are a couple large misses with that comedian and that last production show. So now let's move on to I for itinerary, the ports of call. On this 4-night inaugural cruise, we only had one port. We went from Tampa to Cozumel with a day at sea before and a day at sea after. Now, we did arrive in Cozumel early in the morning. We were cleared right away, and it was somewhat of a hazy, rainy day. A lot of people did get off the ship. I have been to Cozumel many times. As you know from this channel, it is not one of my favorite ports, so I stayed on board to do some filming for the channel. One thing I did notice is that they had made many announcements as well as very clearly on the daily program that we were going to be staying on ship time and not local time. So Cozumel is 1 hour behind Tampa, and they did not do a time change. So we arrived early in the morning. Everybody that had excursions got off the ship based on ship time, and then all aboard time was at 3:30, which I thought was a bit early, and that was 3:30 ship time. So many people got confused by that, of course. If they connected to any cellular network locally, their clocks on their watches did change, or their clocks on their phones did change. So when we were up on deck, as we were getting ready to leave, waiting for all of the pier runners, we did see several, and then one of the IT managers working on board was standing right beside me, and he told me that there were still 26 people on shore that had not scanned their key cards getting in at the time of departure. We waited another half hour, and I'm not exactly sure if we left anybody at port, but I did not hear any of that. But I thought that was actually quite strange that they would not change from ship time to local time as most cruise lines do. Not all of them do. You always need to be aware of what the all aboard time is, and is it local time or is it ship time, and make sure that you do know the difference. Our berth location in Cozumel was at the further pier. It's the southern pier, not next to the downtown area. So those people that didn't have excursions did have to take cabs into downtown, and many people said that a lot of things were closed because we were the only ship in port for that day. The overall feeling from most of the guests is that Cozumel wasn't that great of a port, and they do have an additional itinerary for a 5-night that also includes Key West, which I would feel would make the trip a lot more enjoyable. So with that, I'm going to give I-4 itinerary 2.5 stars. Moving on now to P4 plates, the food on board. This is always a very important part of your cruise, and I'm going to start by telling you all of the complimentary venues on board, then the added fee specialty restaurants, and then I'll give you a review of some of the food that I had while on my cruise. The Finn's Dining Room is the complimentary main dining room on board. It is on deck 2 forward, and there are no set dining times here. It is walk-up only. The Mexican Cutie Cantina and the Cheeseburger in Paradise are 2 complimentary food venues located adjacent to the 5 o'clock somewhere pool. The Mexican Cutie Cantina has build your own street tacos, burritos, and they also have great breakfast burritos. Cheeseburger in Paradise is exactly what it sounds like. It is a hamburger joint that is actually quite good, and it is served with crispy fries. The line here is very long, but it moves very, very quickly. The Port of Indecision buffet is on deck 9 midship, and it has several different sections, and it has some very unique fixed booth seating. Frank and Lola's Pizzeria is in the buffet, and it is very popular and open late night. Moving on now to the foreign extra fee and specialty dining venues on board. We'll start with the Farside Sushi Restaurant on deck 2 forward in the Farside Lounge. I have heard and seen from other posts that this is actually quite good with large portions. The Islander Dining Room is the second level of Finn's Dining Room. This is a $20 upcharge and an upgraded menu with more options and supposedly a little bit better service. I had great service here. The Island Eats and the Tiki Grill are both located in the Tiki bar area at the aft of the ship, the adults only area. The Island Eats has the peel and eat shrimp, tuna nachos, crab, as well as lobster rolls and mussels. The Tiki Grill has chicken wings, filet skewers, and other items such as that. The JWB Prime Steakhouse is the top level restaurant on board the ship. It is on deck 10, and this can be purchased in advance. However, you pick your day and time once you get on board. I ate there, and it was absolutely fantastic. The service was excellent. The ribeye was out of this world, and I really enjoyed my meal there. The Margaritaville Coffee Shop is also located in the buffet, and this is where you get specialty coffees and upgraded dessert items for an added fee. Just like my review in some of the other categories, this one is also very mixed. I had some excellent meals, and I also had some big misses. So let's begin with the main dining room. The main dining room, the Finn's Dining Room, was actually very, very good night 1. I had an excellent meal, wonderful service, and it was absolutely fine for a complimentary main dining room. The main dining room breakfast, however, is a different story. I wanted a sit-down experience for breakfast, and upon entering, I found that it was a buffet style with several different stations to go to, and all of the food was pre-made, extremely low quality, and most of it all was cold. I did not finish my breakfast there. The second night, I upgraded to the Islander main dining room for that $20 upcharge. I had prime rib, baked oysters, and it was fantastic, and my service was exceptional. Third night was at the JWB Steakhouse, which I have already mentioned was exceptional, and the service was great. I tried to get another reservation for the last night. However, on the third night was when we were having rough seas and many people were seasick and canceled and moved their reservations to night 4. The buffet, however, is a completely different story. There seemed to be a lot of stations available. The lines were not that long, but the food was quite uninspiring. There was limited selection, and most of the hot items were actually served cold. Now, there is a fresh salad section that is available at each station. The Cheeseburger and Paradise and the Mexican Cutie Cantina would be my choice for lunch, and then the Mexican Cantina actually has great breakfast burritos that were freshly made and hot. Because I had so many high points in my dining experiences on board, except for the main dining room for breakfast and the buffet for breakfast and for lunch, I am going to give dining on the Islander 3.5 stars. Let's now end up with service. Service was a very mixed bag on this voyage as well, and guest services tried their best, but there seemed to be a lack of familiarity with the point of sale systems, and the point of sale systems were not working properly. It did not recognize a lot of the pre-purchased beverage packages or internet packages, and people had to make accommodations for that. They had to repurchase the Wi-Fi packages, which were initially and immediately credited off the account. However, there were a lot of erroneous charges that kept showing up throughout the entire voyage, and guest relations was swamped with very long lines. Now, everyone tried to do their best, and there were a lot of different departments that were helping work the line for making new key cards and printing out guest accounts on board. You cannot see your account on an app, or it does not display on your stateroom television. The only way to go and look at your account and to get those charges removed is to stand in line at guest services. There were also, unfortunately, a lot of inconsistent processes and policies followed. A lot of the bartenders either wrote down your drink orders manually and then handed them in at the end of the night. And then all of those individuals who were trying to help the line at guest services were not trained in guest services, so they were providing inconsistent and sometimes not accurate information. I am very confident that a lot of these issues will be worked out very quickly as they get a few cruises under their belt. One of the biggest issues that I found on my voyage was debarkation. This was an absolute circus on deck 2, and there was not a lot of great information provided either in the daily program or through announcements. I do believe that if you wanted to check your luggage, you needed to go down to guest services and get luggage tags. They were not left in your room. As we made our way down around 7:30, 8 o'clock to deck 2, morning of debarkation, we found that there was an absolute mob, and I did this only to find myself in a very long line. There is a package called Express Debarkation that you can purchase prior to your cruise. When we were in line, it was then announced by the cruise director that anyone in line should only be those that had purchased Express Debarkation. But of course, once you're down there, nobody was leaving, and there was no way that they could check whether or not that you had this package or not. It did take over an hour to an hour and a half for me to get off the ship, and I was one of the first ones off. I do think that there is a lot of training and redesign needed for their debarkation policy and service. For some of the other services on board, I thought the internet worked just fine. We did have a lot of clouds, and it was satellite, but it was still pretty consistent. My stateroom attendant was fantastic, serviced my stateroom every morning, and I had absolutely no problem with those services. So with all of that said, and with some of the hiccups that they had, and the training process that I know will take place, and all of these things, most of these things will be resolved soon, I'm going to give service 3 stars. So who would I recommend this cruise to? The demographic on board is going to be much younger than you're going to find on some other cruises. It's also going to be maybe first-time cruisers and definitely the budget cruiser. There were some elderly on board, however, it was very, very limited, and I do not believe that this is probably attracting the elderly retired couples unless they are looking for a very low-budget cruise. I think this is good for a young group or a party group that's going together just to have a short cruise and have a lot of fun together. This is not for the sophisticated, experienced cruiser, and if you are a foodie and you find yourself going on this cruise, I would definitely recommend that you do some of the specialty dining or the foreign added fee dining. I think you'd be much happier. So now as we add up the final score for all 5 categories, the Margaritaville at Sea Islander receives 3.3 stars, which is a little bit above average, and for a newer ship and a new crew, I think this is a good score, and I think it should only improve over time. I hope you really did enjoy this review of the Islander. If you did, please give it that thumbs up and please consider subscribing to the channel. As always, when you're ready to book your next cruise, I would be honored if you would reach out to the email listed here on the screen or through my contact information in the video description. Thanks everybody for watching, and you may want to check out one of these related videos next. Thanks again, and as always, I'll see you again soon.